illegal sanctions and the climate change should never limit our endeavor.
Now the talk of anti-sanctions is gaining momentum in Zimbabwe, and the United States Embassy has hit back at the Zimbabwe government talk on sanctions. What does the U.S. Embassy here say? They write a post and include a video. They write this: and sanctions illegal? They are not. The U.S. sanctions prevent U.S. banks from offering personal banking services to 11 individuals. They prevent those 11 from traveling to U.S. There is no law prohibiting countries from regulating their own banks. Then they post this question and answer. What do we find in here?
But aren't sanctions illegal?
They are not. The U.S. sanctions prevent U.S. banks from offering personal banking services to 11 individuals, and they prevent those 11 from traveling to the United States. There is no law prohibiting countries from regulating their own banks and borders. The false accusations that the sanctions are illegal simply seek to distract and mislead. The United States has the right to protect its people and institutions from human rights abusers and corrupt individuals.
They make a post of that video.
Aren't sanctions illegal?
They are not. The U.S. sanctions prevent U.S. banks from offering personal banking services to 11 individuals, and they prevent those 11 from traveling to the United States. There is no law prohibiting countries from regulating.
So this is not the only poster they make. They would make another one written, it's corruption, not sanctions. Now, who are these 11 Zimbabweans, or who are these 11 that are on this sanction list or under these sanctions? Here they write it's corruption, not sanctions. That is the U.S. Embassy. They're writing this. And then they say sanctions are not illegal. Then we see they make a poster of this one, what U.S. sanctions really do and don't. This would be a poster made there by the News Day Zimbabwe. Now, who are these 11 individuals? Now, these 11 individuals are President Emmerson Mnangagwa, the President of Zimbabwe. Number 2, Auxilia Mnangagwa, the First Lady of Zimbabwe. Number 3, Constantino Chiwenga, Vice President of Zimbabwe. Number 4, Opa Mchinguri Kashiri, Minister of Defense. Godwin Matanga, Commissioner General of the Zimbabwe Republic Police. Stephen Mutamba, Deputy Commissioner General of the ZRP. Walter Tafumane, Deputy Director General of the Central Intelligence Organization, CIO. 8, Owen Ngube, Minister of State for Midlands Provincial Affairs and Devolution. Number 9, Kudakwashi Tagwirei, businessman. Number 10, Sandra Mupunga, businesswoman. And number 11, Obey Chimuka, CEO of Fossil Group. Those are 11 individuals under the U.S. sanctions. And we see there the United States of America has hit back at the Zimbabwe government. Now here, what do we find out here? What sanctions really do and don't. This would be a poster by the Newsday. They would write, in March this year, the United States reaffirmed its partnership with the people of Zimbabwe by ending the Zimbabwe Sanctions program while remaining committed to addressing human rights abuses and corruption in Zimbabwe through the global Magnitsy Glomag Sanctions program. These updated U.S. sanctions on a handful of Zimbabweans have been a topic of intense debate, often clouded by misinformation. The Zimbabwe government has portrayed these sanctions as the root cause of the nation's economic woes, but nothing could be further from the truth. The current individual sanctions under GLOMAG were designated for their specific corrupt acts and or involvement in serious human rights abuses. The sanctions do not target the people, economy, or country of Zimbabwe. The government of Zimbabwe can engage in international trade, conduct standard banking transactions, and provide humanitarian assistance for its people. Instead, GLOMAG sanctions affect only 11 individuals and 3 companies in Zimbabwe, preventing them from using U.S. financial banking systems for their personal affairs and traveling to the United States. Some Zimbabwean officials have said sanctions on these 11 individuals impinge on Zimbabwe's sovereignty. Not true. It's a matter of U.S. sovereignty to protect and regulate our financial system and decide who can enter our country, just as Zimbabwe regulates its own banks and borders. U.S. sanctions are not a blanket embargo on the country and never have been. In fact, U.S.-Zimbabwe bilateral trade increased last year by 20%. Rather, there is credible evidence that those sanctioned are responsible for or otherwise involved in serious human rights abuses and or corruption. Sanctions ensuring that these people and companies do not, in the U.S., do not provide support to those sanctioned actors who engage in human rights abuse and corruption. The notion that U.S. sanctions are the cause of Zimbabwe's difficulties does not align with reality. This false narrative diverts attention from the real issues plaguing Zimbabwe. According to reports by Zimbabwe's own Prosecutor General, Zimbabwe loses 1.8 billion to corruption annually. Hyperinflation, high unemployment, underemployment, widespread poverty, and are the consequences of domestic policies and unaddressed criminal activity, not a limited number of targeted sanctions. So this is what we'd find out in this article here. Enough respect to everybody who was watching us live right up now. With that, I'm going to sign out. Dr. Clarence, Champions Network.